Hello, everyone. We're back again with another video from the full-time MBA cohort. So we welcome Akshay Luhadia, who's going to be joining the Chicago Booth School of Business. Hi, Akshay.
Hi, Sumit. How are you?
Good, good. I'm well. Thanks for joining the call. So what we do in this video, Akshay, is as I mentioned, we would basically take you to take the viewers through your experiences, as genuinely as we can, so that people hearing this video, listening to you, would be able to make a judicious decision around their applying for MBA, and then the experiences that they can potentially expect in the process as such. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Akshay Luhadia. I'm actually a lawyer by training, so I come from a non-traditional background. I did my undergrad from NUJS, and I think in my fourth year, I decided to that I will like switch and I'll pursue an MBA. So I did corporate law for a year, and then I switched to a startup. And after that, in my third year, I chose to apply for MBAs, and that's where I met Sumit. And this has been the journey since. And now I got admitted to Booth, like Chicago University Business School, and that's where I'll be heading this September.
Right. Okay. So again, the main choice that I wanted to really discuss is why does a lawyer start thinking about an MBA, right? So could you maybe talk us through sort of that process about how did you arrive at the decision for joining an MBA in the first place?
Yeah. I think like law is a big degree, like it's a 5 year degree, and you get exposed to a lot of different things. You do a lot of different internships and everything. And I think around my fourth year, I realized that instead of like a lot of like typical law things, which would be like a lot of paperwork, diligence, there is a litigating part of it also, but that is not available like or like accessible by everyone. And I knew that I would initially be joining corporate law. And when I joined corporate law as well, as I understood is something that as a lawyer, you don't take the business decisions. You are mainly handling the aftermath of those decisions. Like, okay, X person has said that they want to go ahead and buy this. Now, as a lawyer, it's your duty to figure out how they can do this and the best way for them to do it. But the decision is not being made, and that is not in your hands. And I felt I want to be at the in the area where you I could make that decision to understand the business aspects of it, to understand all the other areas that I could like indulge in to actually creatively explore this area as well. And also, I felt long term, I wanted to have my own business as well. And with that being in mind, I figured that an MBA would be the best way for me to transition because it would give me a learning of like all like business like details, but also like how to like interact with people, connect with people, and network as well. And that's where like like the plan kind of formalized. And that's when I kind of chose to like, okay, I'll now go for an MBA and I'll try to go to the US because I think, irrespective of everything, I still think that US might have the best business schools in the world.
Right. So one thing that, or one question that we often get, Akshay, is a lot of people coming from non-traditional backgrounds, people who are not engineers or consultants or investment bankers. A lot of people think that they don't really belong in the top schools because very few people like them go to these business schools. So when you were thinking about your profile, right, and you had, I think, 2 years of experience, right, and you are going on the third. So I think you're matriculating with 3 years of experience, correct? So why, when you started applying, you only had 2 years of experience, correct? Whereas the average age or average experience for the MBA class is around 5 years. So you were 2 years below like that average, right? So could you tell me like if there were any sort of gaps or apprehensions or challenges that you felt about yourself, or any kind of moments of doubt or something, right? Just answer as honestly as you can, because we just want to share with people that it's very normal to sort of think about all of these, and obviously how you waded or navigated through it would be really really useful.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll answer the first question. I definitely did think that I was like coming from a non-traditional background and would be perceived as such as well. And maybe I should like have my approach accordingly, like change my approach accordingly, where I applied to like a range of schools, like from like top to like T15, T25 as well. But I think first thing was I think like I think Sumit, you put me in touch with a few people, and I saw
Yeah.
that there are a few people who are from non-traditional backgrounds who are doing well in these MBAs, and that are actually like thriving from like like after graduating as well. So I think that was like a really like a path I could see moving forward, and like gave me the confidence as well. I think the second thing is also that you once you like start applying, I think you understand that MBA schools are also looking for non-traditional like people from non-traditional backgrounds. They want to have a diverse class, and I think like understanding that really helped. Like I don't know, I don't have to like hide my diversity, but I should rather work on it and like show it to the best I can, like best aspect or in the best way I can, so that I can bring another like set of like opinions, another set of like another background to the class, which would be appreciated throughout. So I think that's what I worked on as well. I think the second part where yes, I was actually applying with a lot less work ex comparatively than other people. I think again, that's a decision that everybody makes according to themselves. But I think here, I did get a bit of a confidence boost by Sumit, where we had this discussion, where we figured out that okay, like people are going with X amount of work X, I'm going with X amount of work X. But at the same time, let's give it a shot. Like let's do our best right now. Let's give it a shot, and then once we've done all the work, once I've like completed and gone through all the steps, then I'll see how it like how it impacts me and how I can move forward from there. And at the same time, I also feel if you feel like you're under indexed in one area, there are definitely other areas that you might want to work harder in, and you definitely can. So I don't think that's a bar in itself. I think it sometimes like affects you a little bit here and there, but at the same time, I do think it also gives you an opportunity. For example, for me, I think having low work X also meant that I had the ability to say to myself, if I go and I take a risk right now, maybe if it doesn't work out, I'm kind of okay with that. Like I have another year for myself to go and apply to these schools as well. But luckily, it worked out this year, so I don't have to apply next year. But that was a risk that I took within like with myself, something that Sumit and I discussed as well. But yeah, like this was like a risk where we went, okay, let's go big, and then we'll see what happens at the end of at the end of the cycle.
Right. And that is something that I really appreciated about you, Akshay, because it's not easy to make those decisions. But I think once you're clear as to what kind of expectations you set, and because obviously the work that we wanted to put in was to kind of get to try and get Akshay to like the topmost schools, of course, right? But many a times it does work out, right? But there is always a chance that it may not, right? And I think the attitude that Akshay showcased, all of you guys were viewing this, was exceptional, and I think he was very ready. He kind of knew what the risk was, and he worked very diligently to sort of showcase other elements of your his profile, the distinctiveness, the entrepreneurship, the leadership, which of course we will discuss next, right? Which is coming to the process. And could you talk about your process, of course, right? How you reached out to us, and where how this whole process began with us, uh, and of course, then if you could also talk a bit about your own process experience, keeping in mind that people who are viewing this video will sort of be new to the process, and they will want to understand what are sort of the do's and don'ts for the various process steps. So I know it might be a long answer, but that's fine, as succinctly as you can.
Definitely. Um, so I reached out because I was actually talking to a few seniors of mine who had done the MBA process. Now, admittedly, so there's not that many, but one of my seniors had actually mentioned Sumit's name and told me that he has worked with lawyers before. And that kind of became like a thing. Okay, this is like a very good way to start because we like as lawyers we tend to write a little differently. We'll tend to think a little differently, and that is not exactly like how like you would write for an MBA application or how you would also think for an MBA application. So that for me just became like an automatic choice in a way. Like okay, like Sumita's worked with lawyers before. This is like an easy process for me because he will understand like what I'm trying to say, how I'm trying to write, and I think we can really like move forward from that like path, like forward from there quite fast as well. Um, the MBA application is actually divided into three rounds. You have round one, round two, and round three, and you have to like fill in your applications or like write your essays and get your LORs in for each round for different universities. And accordingly, you will be either invited to like the second stage, which would be the invite or the interview invite. And then you have to prep for the interview, understand like how you're going to answer those questions. And from there, you move on. And then like the process happens where you get to know if you're accepted or like if you're not, if you're rejected. Um, In that case, I think first things first, I think this is something that everyone will tell you is that like get your GMAT and GRE done before, like before you start the entire process, like get your GMAT and GRE done. A lot of people, I think, are hesitant in the process of giving it again. I am someone who gave it 3 times, and I think it's just something you should definitely just get the best score that you can and get it out of the way so you don't have to think about it again because it does amount to a certain percentage of your application. I think after that is kind of understanding actually who you are and what you want and what do you want moving forward. I think these are questions that are kind of asked in the MBA application, but I also think these are questions that you should ask yourself as well before you go ahead with this procedure. I think at some points, like it's very easy to just be like, okay, I want to do an MBA because it's an answer that can answer like a lot of questions. But at the same time, I think you will want to ask yourself, okay, why do I want to do an MBA? What are the benefits of this? Where do I see myself moving forward? And also, when you ask yourself these questions, you also kind of understand which schools you also want to go to. So I think that was a huge part of the process. And then after that, I think it's more or less understanding like these are like your core like aspects or your core areas where you want to work around. And then you accordingly like go across your essays, you go across like writing what you want to write and writing how you want to get your point across. I think there's two main things here. One is how you research the school. I think there's definitely an online way to do it where you research the school. Like you go about like their websites, you go about like people, what they've written about them. But the other aspect, I think, which you sometimes get to know a little later, but also is a little tricky, is talking to people and talking to like the alumni of that school or talking to students, current two students of that school. I think that process, like it's a very like sometimes you just don't know people in that school, so you have to try to reach out in different ways. Like I had LinkedIn Premium for a few months over there, so like you have to find your own ways. But I think that's also a huge part of the process which you would want to go through. And then I think throughout this entire process, it's helpful to sometimes just have someone who also has been through the process again and again and can kind of guide you throughout the entire journey, which sometimes really helps like throughout the entire journey.
Right, right. So that was a very detailed sort of an overview as well. Like, and I think you did a great job, Akshay, just explaining the entire process very succinctly. But primarily you kind of really start thinking about what do you bring to the table really? I mean, that's because ultimately it's a competitive process and they're going to take you if you have value to add to their class and community. So you need to really sort of think about A is, what's your clarity around what you want to achieve and why you want an MBA, right? That's one part of it is what do you want, what do you want to take from MBA, right? The other part is what do you want to give to the MBA, which is what do you bring to the table, what will you contribute to class and community, right? So there are those two elements that is something that we really worked with Akshay and other clients also uh, through the process. And I think a lot of brainstorming, a lot of outreach, a lot of networking just enables you to really sort of sharpen your narrative, right? It just lets you understand the ground realities at different business schools, and that leads to success, right? And Akshay did that a lot. I think he really networked very hard, and I think I was obviously happy to provide him whatever contacts I had, but otherwise, a lot of it was given his own initiative, behind what he did. So, just one thing. If you kind of look back at your process, right, what do you feel were your key learnings or what would you do differently?
Um, so I think actually I think this applies to everyone. When you're at the application stage, like when you're beginning your applications, you have it. Okay, you have what it takes to get into an MBA. Now, this entire process that I understood it is how do you extract that and get that point across? I think everyone has different lived experiences, has had different work opportunities. Even if you're like a student in university, you've been through so much. You've lived a life here, and you have had different experiences where you've learned different things. I think that is completely like where you should start, and that is the case for everyone. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone because everyone's journey is different. And the universities are kind of a black box. You don't know what they're looking for. You just have to look within, and from there, I think the entire process is just extracting it and writing it down or getting it across in ways that are understandable but also appreciable by like the other side. I think that is the entire process that I learned that okay, I have X, I have Y, I have Z. to me, X, Y, and Z might not that be that big, or I don't know how to get it across. But this entire journey is me understanding that okay, this is how I can like really put myself forward. This is how I can like show that these are skills that fall within X. These are my learnings from Y, and this is what Z taught me. So I think that entire process was huge, where I just like learned how to kind of think differently about myself, but think differently about like situations as well. I feel we all come from a like some like not all of us, but I think our education system sometimes and like the way we think about things can be a little like directional. And this is very kind of hard to understand. And I think this was like actually my first like great learning experiences before my MBA also started, is to just learn how to think in different directions and how to like go forward with that. Um, I think the second question, which is what I would change if I had to do this process again, is I think one, I think I would have started a little earlier. I think like I gave my third GMAT in August. Yeah, I gave it on the like in like the first week of August. And you think there's time, but there's always something. There's always something you can like add. There's always something that you can do differently. So I think I would like give myself a little bit more time to be able to process all of it in a way that I can like I feel I can now. And the second thing is I would maybe reach out a little bit more. I would I think I did like reach out to quite a few people, like really try to like go after them, like not go after them, but if you if you're doing an MBA, you're going to be busy. Like there's a time difference already, and like you're already involved in so many things. So people like forget to reply. Sometimes they forget to like they just like forget. Like some like they don't want to reply to you. And I think initially I was like, okay, maybe then I should not like reach out as much. Maybe I should like kind of back off for a little bit sometimes here and there, even though I was like trying to like find some common contacts, try to reach out to people. But the second time, actually, somebody told me this, and it kind of stuck by me. And this is like a rule I use now is that it's actually an MBA student who told me this from Booth itself that they are taught that in networking, the key rule is to reach out thrice. Like you have to like go after someone thrice sometimes for like that proper like to get what you want or like to properly like meet like heads and like see like okay I've gotten their time sometimes. So I think that's something I learned a little later, but I think yeah that's definitely helpful because there are always like trinkets of information that are not available online, and
Mm,
I think sometimes that can help you. I also think I would have attended more sessions. They're obviously not at the best time for Indian students at times, but I would have definitely attended more sessions to understand what they're talking about, how they see the university, and under like getting an getting a vibe, like getting a vibe of how the university works and how I can accordingly like work around that or help them see
right.
who I am in that kind of like sphere.
Hmm, hmm. Those are really, really good insights. I love the rule of three for the networking. That is actually like an open secret among all MBA students
Yeah.
in the US. So that's awesome. So yeah, so what are you up to now? Like, obviously the admits in hand and you probably have your visa done, I guess. So tell me a bit more about, what you're up to right now and how you funding for business school.
Yeah. So once you get an acceptance, I think you have a total of 2 days to relax. Actually, but like most schools will be like they want you there and they want you to be like in the system since day one since you accepted. So I think I was accepted and I got my email around 6 or 7 p.m. And I think by 9 or 10 p.m. I had gotten a call from like someone at booth saying congratulations, we welcome you to the community and everything. And I was actually taken aback by that a little bit because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect this much of a personal touch where like somebody actually reached out to me and gave me a call from like US like, hey, congratulations. And by that time, like groups have been starting to form. So I think like soak it in, but like it'll like happen fast after that. I have been up to a bit of traveling, just a bit of everything. So trying to like figure out like bunch of things. Like you have to like figure out like your visa, you have to figure out your loan, you have to figure out like your like vaccines, and there's a bunch of other things happening as well. For example, like most universities will like in major hubs, like for example, I think you'll have like certain students like who had applied from Bangalore, Bombay, and Delhi, and each like everyone wants to meet, and you I think you should definitely go out and meet them. So I met a few people in Bombay, I met a few people in Delhi. Um, so that's been it. Otherwise, I've just been trying to like catch up with friends and meet them and all over that because it is a bit of an emotional process. I think loan wise, I'm still in the middle of like things like figuring out things from different directions. But I think one, I think you should be on the lookout for Indian scholarships. There are a few, and while the process itself is like a bit time taking, you should definitely like have like your scholarship process like for Indian from Indian institutes or like funding institutes like on the side. And I think the second thing is like the process takes time. Especially, I think most loans will be either from a private institution or from a public institution like SBI and everything like that. And the rates may vary, but if you go like with a public institution, you have to understand that they take time, especially with an MBA loan and the size of the MBA loan, they will take time. So I think this is something that again, like as soon as you know that where you are going, I think this process like should be started side by side because while you may not have that much work to do, I think the general like business weekdays that like companies take and everything will take time. I think another thing that I would definitely say is the visa process, especially for US. This is something that I saw people like. It's something that people have to do a lot of back and forth with. So I would definitely like try to like get that sorted like from day one. I think again it's kind of a black box, and I've seen people go both ways, and it is something that you want to get sorted right out of the bat just because you want to be tension free. And that's definitely like something I feel like people right now, like in our groups and everything, are a little bit stressed about. So I would definitely recommend like getting these things like right off the like as soon as you're done, just get these like things started.
Okay, lovely. I think that's all that we had for you, Akshay. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much for sharing all your insights about your experiences, which I'm sure that will be very useful for the viewers and the listeners in the future. So all the very best at Booth and obviously be in touch.
Thank you so much, Sumit.